I just feel like if you can't get behind what you're teaching, then you're a phony. This is an out of the ordinary video that I'm making today, but quarantine has us all sharing our thoughts and feelings, so why not? So today I'm going to tell you why I no longer teach. Let me first just make a disclaimer that this is totally just my experience. I mean it 100% that teaching is an amazing, honorable, respectable profession, and I would not have spent 4 brutal years making unit plans and written up an 80,000 page student teacher binder if I didn't think it was a great job. Okay, so now that that's covered, let's first start with why I wanted to get into teaching in the first place. First of all, if you didn't already know, I was a physical education teacher and a 6th grade health teacher for 3 years. So back to it. Okay, I never knew what I wanted to do with my life. I never really even knew that I had an interest in teaching, although when I was a kid, I would play teacher. I also knew that I was good with kids. My dad was already in the education field. So it all just, if I had to choose something that just made the most sense was teaching. I knew it was a good job. The hours were good. I decided to be a teacher. And now I just had to pick which field to go into. And originally I wanted to do math. But then I was like, if I really want to make a decision that's going to make me happy, I'd be a physical education teacher. It was my favorite class. I love being active. I love sports. It was a cause that I could get behind. I knew the importance of it, but it was one of the hardest jobs to find. But I said, whatever, I'm going to go for it. And I am going to be one of those lucky ones that gets a job. So I made the decision and that was it. I'm going to be a PE teacher. I really am not trying to toot my own horn here, but I worked so hard at my degree. I just wanted to be the absolute best candidate I could possibly be for that job. But the whole time I was going through it, I felt like I wasn't really interested in what I was learning. I felt like I was forcing myself to learn it because I had to learn it, which I think everybody experiences to some extent. Every single degree that you go into, they pile on some stuff that you'll never ever use in your job. But for me, it was kind of all the time. Should have been my first clue, but I went along with it. And then when it got time to student teach, I was placed at 2 different schools, one for elementary, one for secondary. And they were both pretty challenging schools. My mentor teachers, I was really lucky to have because they were great and they were knowledgeable, but each day was really tough. I felt like I was working on classroom management a lot more than I was actually teaching. And I used to put little smiley faces on my planner and put them on the days where I felt like I had a really good day. And out of the 15 weeks of student teaching, I think I had like 3 smiley faces. And I really liked the students, but the motions of instructing, it was just hard. However, I also felt like, this is not my classroom. These aren't my students. I'm not their teacher. So of course this is going to be a challenge. So I just kind of kept that in the back of my mind.
This lighting is awful. Can I just fix this lighting? It's terrible.
Is that better or worse? I think it's better. Now, I don't know if you believe in signs or not, okay? But at the very end of my student teaching, on the very last day, when we're supposed to be celebrating, let's have a bunch of fun, 2 kids got into a heated fist fight. And this was out of nowhere. One kid accidentally slid into the other kid. And apparently that's cause for a fist fight. But regardless, I run over there. I'm yelling and screaming, trying to get them to knock it off. But they just didn't budge. It was like they didn't even hear anything coming out of my mouth. So then my mentor teacher comes down, and of course he's, deep voice, wrestling coach. But he comes down and he makes one big bellow and they just break it up right away. And I felt like such a failure because here I am, it's my last day. I am supposed to leave here and venture out to teach the future of America, and I can't even control my kids. Now, of course, whether or not you can break up a fist fight is not a good representation of whether or not you're a good teacher. But I took it really personally and felt like I failed. And then we had a final wrap up with all of our other student teachers. I think there were 5 or 6 of us. And we were just kind of talking about our experience, what we learned, what our future looks like, things like that. And every single one of them talked about how excited they were to have their own class and their own students and just
Lovely, positive outlook on the future of their careers.
And I felt none of that. Not even a wink. I remember walking out of that classroom with my old boyfriend and I almost started crying because I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to feel this way. But I kept making excuses for it, like, give it a chance, Nicki. You can't just poo-poo everything before you've actually experienced it. And like I said, I really, really, really worked my tail off for my degree. So I didn't want to just toss it away. So after I graduated, I substitute taught for a little while. I had some interviews here and there. In one of those interviews, here's another sign, I made it to the top 2 finalists. It was a full-time position, paid better than any of the surrounding districts. They needed a volleyball coach, which was like my jam. So it was clearly a great opportunity. And when I get the phone call that I was a finalist, my first thought literally was, oh crap, I might actually have to do this. My support system was so excited for me, like, yes, go Nicki, this is so exciting. And I'm like, yeah. Ugh. I didn't end up getting that job, but I did get another job. And this was a part-time position. And I was offended. I was offended that I didn't get the full-time position, and I didn't even want to teach. Makes absolutely no sense. But I guess I just have a big ego. But I accepted it, and I just went on my merry way. But this part-time thing becomes important because as we're getting ready for the school year, I met up with my co-teachers. We were kind of just, discussing, planning out for the year. And as we're doing this, I felt like a useless piece of garbage. And this is because I found out from the superintendent that my position was created basically because they needed someone to cover the one BOCES class that was there in the day. And then the rest of my day, I was just there to help out the other classes. So it kind of felt like I wasn't really needed. Like, should I really be contributing to designing the curriculum right now when all I'm here to do is help out? I felt like I was an assistant, and probably just my own insecurities. I just felt defeated before I was even given the opportunity to showcase my abilities as a teacher. So the school year starts, and I have my BOCES class, which was terribly difficult. I eventually grew to have really great relationships with these kids, but it was a tough start. The majority of them came in their work boots and refused to change out of their work boots because it took too long to untime and then time back up. You guys know who you are. They just didn't care about the class, a lot of them. And not to mention, I was only 5 years older than them. I had all juniors and seniors, and I was a 23-year-old teacher trying to establish my dominance. So really, it was just like one bottle of challenge, and it was thrown at me as a fresh new teacher, and I was all by myself. So then the rest of my 3 class periods, I assisted the other teachers, but these classes were ginormous, so big. I think our smallest class was maybe 68 kids, and then our biggest one was 117. And we had one gym. We had no classrooms. So you can imagine what that looks like in the gym, okay? But then try to imagine what it looks like in the locker rooms. It wasn't terrible if we could go outside, because then we could split everybody up among 4 different teachers. But what happens when it rains? What happens when winter comes and we can't go outside? That's right, we're in the gym. I even met up with my old college professors to ask them for advice, like, what do we do about this? And the conclusion we came to was basically, you need to maintain crowd control. That's all that you can do. So again, classroom management and no teaching. There's not even enough equipment to pass around, and if there was, there's not enough space for people to safely participate in anything. It was terrible. Now, on the bright side of all of this, my 3 coworkers were awesome. I loved working with them, and to this day, they are 3 of my very best friends. So even though I did not have a great experience, I would do it all over again just so that I could bring them back into my life. So, hi guys. So I went through that year as a part-timer, and I was pretty unhappy. And the year actually ended with a big scandal. Our superintendent left before the year had ended. And just before she leaves, she turns our principal in for misconduct. She apparently had mishandled the Regents tests or something. So our principal gets fired. Ultimately, also, my job gets cut, much less scandalous than all the rest of that. But I kind of knew it was coming anyway. So I lose my job. However, one of my coworkers moved. So she left her position, and I was offered her full-time spot. And I took the job. Mostly, well, number one, I needed a job. But also I was hopeful that a full-time job would maybe make things a little bit better. It didn't. So my second year, we had an interim principal, an interim superintendent, and still nobody cared about the phys ed department. Not because they didn't want to care about it, but they were temporary. So they were just kind of keeping things status quo above water until we could hire full-time leaders. So then my third year comes along. And this was it was the worst of them all. Okay, so without getting into too many specifics or calling out specific people, whatever progress we did make as a department was lost. The new vision coming from some of our leaders was that our program needed to focus on sports. And they even thought it would be a great idea to have the athletic director oversee the design of our curriculum. And now, no offense to him, as I'm sure this was not his choice, but he has no background in physical education. And he's supposed to be directing us and telling us what we should be teaching to these kids. I was even told directly that we need to be spending 15 minutes of every class, of our 30-minute class period. 15 minutes of that needs to be spent on improving their physical fitness exams. So basically push-ups, curl-ups, the pacer run, dumb things that do not get kids motivated or excited to be active. The focus became all about testing and all about athletics. Let's get our sports teams better, and let's make sure that these kids are showing proficiency on their physical fitness exams. And I wanted to die, if you can't already tell. And at that point, I wasn't even living up to my teaching philosophy. I was really, truly being told to do the exact opposite of what I believed in and what I believed that class should be about. And now here's where I get a little even more passionate. What is the point of physical education? Why is it important? Maybe because our country has a serious obesity problem, because we eat a bunch of fast food, because we can't get our kids away from their phones or away from their video game console. So let's focus on how we fix that. Not let's make our sports better. No, thank you. Can we think about the students, please? If you want them to get better at sports, then let us host intramurals at the end of the day. Okay? We don't need to be working on this when they're supposed to be learning things. If we're going to make them stop playing video games for a minute of their life, then we need to find something that they'll feel is a good enough substitute to step away from the video games for a little while. No one's going to willingly stop playing their game to do math. Do you know what I'm saying? You don't need to do that for the rest of your life. You don't have to. Okay, yes, you got to learn it, but I can also learn how to do cardio and make the choice not to do it. So even though in the gym we need to teach them certain things, and some things they're not going to like, we absolutely 100% need to expose them to things that they do like. You're not going to do that by making them do fitness testing for 15 minutes of every single day. Also, speaking of fitness testing, we liked doing it at the beginning and at the end of the year, and then once in the middle just kind of to measure progress for ourselves, but it should not be a grade. First of all, I'm not a scientist, not an expert by any means, but my humble, very humble opinion is that that test is crap. Your health and fitness is not determined by the number of curl-ups you can do or if you can reach your hands and touch your fingers behind your back. And here we are being forced to make this a heavy focus of our curriculum. Being fit is important. I'm not saying it's not, but that's part of being healthy and that's part of what we have to teach. But being able to do 25 push-ups if you're a male that's 17 years old. And sports are great. Like I said, I love sports. Every single one of them except field hockey. A lot of people love sports, but a lot of people don't. And for the people that don't, how are we going to get them to enjoy being active if all we expose them to is sports?
Yeah, okay. We're going to throw you guys into just a bunch of team sports, okay, contact sports. That's what we like here. So we just want to make sure that you know that when you're 60 years old, the only choice you have, okay, you're going to have to play football. So make sure you get a good spiral now, okay?
It's not the only choice for physical activity. And if you make it that way, they're going to hate it. And one thing I just need to add in here, the school system in New York is very political. Maybe not at every school, but at a lot of them. And if you're not part of the good old boys club, good luck. Okay, anyway, I also have to mention, I'm probably making it seem like the school I was at was just awful. The teachers there, I wish that I could have had them as teachers. There is an amazing faculty at that school. I'm talking more our leadership. And just in my experience. Compared to the past, PE has definitely gotten a lot better. And again, I'm not an expert, but I do know that we shouldn't be teaching our students to be athletes. We're teaching them to be physically active citizens. Teach them what they need to know to be active and to enjoy it and do it for the rest of their lives. I just can't stress that enough. So I just rambled really hard. The good things that I experienced during my 3 years there were secondary to like my actual purpose for being there. I just feel like if you can't get behind what you're teaching, then you're a phony. And that was where I ended up, and it discouraged me. But I truly believe that it was the wake-up call that I needed to realize that all those little signs that I was getting before college were there for a reason, and that it was not what I was meant to do. I would never take away my experience, because I've learned so much and I've grown so much as a person, and I have a lot of great memories from there, but it wasn't for me. And I've had other opportunities at different schools where it's probably a different experience and I could try this all again, but I'm just kind of trusting my gut, which is telling me that this is not my path and there are other things in my future. I think that about covers it. There are a lot of times that I do miss certain aspects of my job, but I still to this day know that I am where I'm supposed to be. And it's easy to get stuck teaching, because if you stick it out, you've got a great retirement, you're set for life. But if you don't love what you do, to me, it's just not worth it. If there was still that little town schoolhouse with like your 10 kids and you're teaching them how to farm and how to like can jam, then maybe I reconsider and go that route with our bonnets on. But again, please just understand that this was my experience. I know it's not the norm. I have so many friends who are teachers and love their jobs. My dad's a principal at a school. That system is awesome. Bottom line is, you really have to enjoy what you do. I don't know if it's true that you'll never work a day in your life, but I do think you'll find it much easier to find joy in every single day. That's my story. I hope it answered some of your questions. And sorry that it was so long. Very, very long. But thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.